Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of The Bright Side of Life. I am your host, Melissa Bright, and today we are in for a very, very exciting and informative conversation with Winnie Chan Wang. This woman, I swear, is the Jill of all trades. She is the queen of compassion transformation. She's an informed licensed acupuncturist, shadow worker, Reiki and intuitive healer. And I really love your work because you are using both science and spirituality. So kind of before we go any further, I just want to welcome you to the bright side of life. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I think that the vibes of this podcast is so bright that I chose to wear yellow today. I already feel some joy just being in your presence. And so thank you for all the listeners who are tuning in.
Yes, I love it, and thank you for wearing yellow. That is perfect. We talked a little bit about what we were going to talk about on here. You obviously do so many things, but what you had said, we're really going to discuss about trauma. Where is trauma being stored at in our bodies? If we're not experiencing joy, what does that still mean for us? I know you said that probably a lot of my listeners, have tried traditional talk therapy, and why we're going to talk about why there needs to be probably more work than just talk therapy. So we're just going to talk about all kinds of stuff, shadow work, Reiki, all that stuff. But to get us started, can you kind of talk me through what made you interested in this kind of work and how you arrived to where you are today?
Yeah, I love that. So I had a spinal injury in 2009. And if your spine is crooked, then all of your organs sit at the wrong place.
Mm.
And it caused me so much pain, and I would cry day and night. Sometimes 3 hours a day and twice a day. I had major anxiety and depression. And finally, I decided to study traditional Chinese medicine
Mm.
because the thinking is, well, if I can perform acupuncture on myself, then I can provide the relief from pain. And that embarked me on a very special journey because I discover that trauma is stored in the body, right? So, and when you do acupuncture, you can actually move the blockage from the body. So the analogy I say is kind of like, imagine you've never gone to the dentist and then you have cavities and it's so painful. You're like, oh my God, what I do, what I do.
Yeah.
And then you go to the dentist, and the moment, they took out your root canal, and suddenly your face doesn't hurt, and you're like, why did I wait so long before I went to the dentist?
Yep.
However, if you only did acupuncture, that's also not enough because if you hire a plumber to help you flush the toilet, okay, so the blockage that's stored, let's say, in your hips is gone with the acupuncture session. But unless you change the way you think, then in 3 days, the pain is just going to come back. And so this is why, everyone should have a talk therapist and everyone should have an acupuncturist, because the talk therapists help you change the conversations in your mind, while the acupuncturist actually moves the stagnation that's stored in your body, your organs, right?
Right.
So I'm going to give myself an example. So in my first book, Honoring Darkness, Embrace Shadow Work and Nourish and Grow Your Power, I talk a lot about my trauma from the divorce.
Mm.
And actually, I'm about to release my second book. It's called Unlocking Light.
I saw
And
that.
yeah, and we're going to talk about all kinds of trauma stored in the body. Specifically, I address 3 issues. I call them root chakra, second chakra, and third chakra. So today for this episode, I'd like to just break down childhood trauma and how that is stored in our hips, and how you can use acupuncture and combination with talk therapy to help overcome that. It's very interesting because throughout my life, I think in my 20s, which is half of what I am now, I would remember this sensation like, okay, Winnie, I think you should be happier than you are. Like you have a roof over your head, you have all the food you ever want to eat, all the clothes you ever want to wear, you have a college degree, you have, boyfriend, you have everything in the world. Yet there's this feeling like I just can't be happy. I just don't have joy, and I don't know why. And so, as it turns out, it's because there is a lot of childhood trauma that is stored in my genital areas and also in my tailbone. So, this is, like root chakra stuff. And so I can't shine. I can't have a bright life. So even though I feel like if there was a checklist, I check all the boxes, but I just am not happy.
Right.
And so through the process of unlocking the light, and I'm going to tell you something funny. Okay, so for many years, I dreaded talk therapy. I dreaded facing the truth because,
Mm,
you know, sitting down and actually looking at the ways that I have or have not showed up, that is challenging, to be really honest, to take responsibility of how I've been holding grudges, against my mother or my father, and how
right.
that manifested these pain that I have.
Yep.
But that's just kind of book one. That's honoring darkness and doing the shadow work. Even harder for me was to acknowledge the pain that my parents had done for me. That's what book two was about, because it doesn't matter as much to me to look at how I've been the bad guy, but for me to really be honest about how the people I love the most actually hurt me, that required a whole different level of bravery.
You're not kidding.
Yeah. So, I talk about physical, verbal, emotional abuse from my childhood in the second book, Unlocking Light, and really take a look at how that turned into, BDSM and all these unhealthy relationship that I seeked as an adult, or
Yep.
sought as an adult.
Yep.
And, I don't have to carry that anymore, because there is a way to move every block from the body.
Hmm.
And really, you want to do it at the soul level, and, the heart, the mind, the energy, and the body. And that's really what Unlocking Light is about, is we want to get help from every level.
Right.
And one of the reasons why we do have to talk about the soul is because forgiveness is not possible with the human mind. So the
Yeah.
way I like to explain is this. If my partner comes home from work today and I say, "Oh my God, I've had this lower back pain for the last 10 years, and COVID's hitting me so hard. I don't know if I can pay rent this month. Can you please wash the dishes?" Versus if I say, oh my God, I'm making so much money. I'm going to have happy hours and get some drinks with my girlfriends. Look, I just bought this new Prada bag and I'm going to get a massage later. Can you wash the dishes? So that's really meant to illustrate that there is a benefit to holding on to pain, which is A, it gives us the ability to manipulate other people to do what we want. And B, it gives us an excuse as to why we're not doing bigger and better things.
Mm.
You know, for example, oh, I can't do push-ups today because my lower back is hurting.
Right.
I can't eat clean today because I'm tired. You know, like it gives us the ability to make excuses.
Ooh.
So, yeah, in my humble opinion, the only way that I can let go of my excuses and also really forgive myself and others is by connecting to a higher power.
Yep. Okay. So I want to say a couple things because even for my listeners, I've had so many mental health experts on here, if you will, but some people might not still be grasping on to the fact that they might have childhood trauma. They might just be walking around in this world being like, I mean, I guess I had like a good childhood. I don't really think I had childhood trauma. Um and I just want to say that so many of us did, whether it was neglect, just neglect because they were busy. We didn't get to express our emotions, needs in a healthy manner because our parents didn't. We had immature parents. There was physical abuse, um, mental abuse, above all this stuff. And so some people, like even when I did talk therapy starting in 2020, my therapist said, she goes, "Well, do you have any trauma from your childhood?" And I was like, "Well, no, I don't think so." And she goes, "Okay, well, fill out this sheet." And like the sheet was like, "Oh shit." Like, okay, yes, I have some trauma. And then on top of that, my mom died 10 years prior, no, 9 years prior to that. I didn't really think that was trauma either because we just were not aware of like what these things mean. And I guess my biggest like red flags of like, do I have trauma is like, are you still seeking in having limiting beliefs? You are struggling with self-worth. You are in these bad patterns, like you said, like of manipulation and stuff like that. There's these patterns that you did understandably when you were in quote unquote survival mode to like where you can be today. And I just love, like, I am such a nerd when it comes to science. Like, there are physiological things happening in our body, like stored pain, that maybe people don't realize. And that's why it's so important, like you said, for the acupuncture and both either talk therapy, like conquering your mind also. It is a thing. And so I just want to say that for people that are like, I just don't know if I'm one of these people, Melissa, that have trauma. And I feel like I don't want to put labels on people, but there's a lot of stuff. And if you find yourself numbing out with alcohol or whatever it is, what do you think? Do you think there's a way that people, like, if they're like, is this me? I don't know if she's talking about me. Like, is Winnie talking about us? Is there a better way that you could?
Yes, yes, perfect. First of all, I think denial gets a bad rep
Mm,
because sometimes to survive, we do need to be in denial. I'm going to be more specific about that. So, in my book, my second book, Unlocking Light, I talk about how I was suicidal at age 8 or 9. And when you reach that point as a child, it's because something was done to you and you don't even want to live anymore.
right.
And I was not willing to really look at that until literally I was writing this book.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so I was not willing to look deeply into it until I was writing this book. So I was writing it when I was 42. So if
Mhm.
you are in denial, please know that it's perfect, because sometimes doing this work, whether you call it shadow work or talk therapy, it can be very destabilizing because all of this emotion is coming up to be released. And you might have episodes of crying or screaming or even diarrhea, fatigue, because when this toxin is coming out of you, you're going to relive that. So part of this is having courage, right? So I
Yeah.
remember doing a master cleanse, which is just drink nothing but lemonade for 10 days. And the book said, if you had a lot of caffeine in your life, or if you did a lot of drugs in your life, during the cleanse, you might have moments of experiencing the effect of the chemical, because as that chemical is coming out of your body, you're going to relive that experience. So part of why people don't dive deeply into their childhood trauma is because you have to feel it to heal it. So you're going to have to relive that which you put a box around it to survive and function.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about one thing that I personally find really surprising. When we talk about the bright side of life, I think about shining. I
Mhm.
think about doing what I came here to do, right? I think about how I'm just this bubbly, shiny little girl. And so then the question is, what happened? It's almost like somebody put a wet blanket over my passion for life so that I can't feel joy. And it turns out that this is stored in my genitals. Okay, so in acupuncture, we call it Ren 1 acupuncture point. The technical definition is if you find the posterior border of the vagina and then the other side is the anus, then find the midpoint. So the midpoint between the anus and the posterior border of the vagina, that's Ren 1. And it turns out that I had a wet blanket put over my passion. And the reason why the wet blanket was put over me was because my mother was jealous of my light.
Mm.
And literally, I didn't know this until like 6 months ago. And I tell you, I am a professional. I do this night and day. I do this 24/7. And so even I have to discover, oh my God, like, and there's so much articles out there that says how frequent it is that mothers, because they didn't have therapy, because they're in so much pain, they can't see somebody happier than them. They can't see somebody shine. So they're jealous of their daughters, and then they put this wet blanket so that they cannot shine.
Mm.
So if you feel like I am meant for much bigger things, I am meant to shine and share my love and light with the world, but somehow you're blocked a little bit, well, you should look into your childhood trauma. Ren 1 acupuncture point. Okay. Uh, and then also, there is another kind of trauma that's stored in my tailbone. And this is, I don't know how many listeners they were maybe punished for when they didn't please their parents. For me, there was spanking, but maybe for you, there were other kinds of manipulation. Like, okay, if you don't do this to my liking, then I'm going to withdraw my love from you, right? So there's a lot of conditional love. Anytime
Yep.
you hear an if then statement, if you don't do this, then XYZ will happen. It's like a blackmail. So as a child, when you hear that, you feel like, oh my God, if I don't brush teeth right now, I'm going to stop receiving love from my mother, and I can't do that. So so we
That's so
learn,
messed up, but it happens.
yeah, so we learn how to compromise our integrity and our authenticity. And so a lot of time I have patients, they have herniated discs, they have scoliosis, so they have all kinds of structural spine problem. It's really because they haven't forgiven their parents. And
Mm,
so they hold this grudge in their body. And so they manifested this that feels like they're twisted and turned out of alignment.
yeah, literally out of alignment.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know I don't know a lot about acupuncture. Like, to be honest with you, I did not even realize that acupuncture was meant to remove, like, trauma. I thought it was only well, it was for physical pain, but I did not realize trauma was physical pain, and that's what acupuncture is for. Do For what you were just talking about, the Ren one, first of all, how do you spell it? Is that REN or WREN?
Oh, it's REN. Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then do you actually put needles down
No,
there?
no,
Good
no,
God,
no.
I was like, "Wha what? What?" I might never have acupuncture there and just have those blockages if that
No, no, no.
okay,
This
okay,
is you let me explain it this way.
okay.
So the body has, imagine Google Maps, right? So they have all these roads where energy travel, and we
Mhm,
call that meridians. You can think about them like river or the bus route.
okay.
So the acupuncture points are where the bus mix stops.
Mm,
So if there is a congestion in one area, you don't actually affect that area, but you redirect traffic to other areas.
okay.
So, for example, if I have neck pain, I might needle my leg. And if I have heart pain, I might needle my hand. So, it's a
Mm,
system of diverting traffic jams.
wow, okay.
And yes, more people know it for lower back pain.
Yeah.
Exactly. But actually, what it is when the energy is flowing,
Mhm.
there is no pain. When the energy is trapped, there is pain. So actually, all of us have these little neck pain, wrist pain, knee pain, leg pain, shoulder pain. And there is two components. The first component is the conversation aspect. Because if we're not fixated on a certain thought, then it wouldn't cause a traffic jam in that area. So, for example, the shoulder has to deal with carrying burden, right? So, if you didn't take the burden onto yourself, you're not going to have shoulder pain. So, it's really two parts, right? You can look at shoulder pain as, oh, it's shoulder pain. Okay, I go get a massage, I get acupuncture, it's gone. But there's other aspect, which is what were your thoughts that manifested shoulder pain?
Mm. That is so it's not crazy. I know these things, but it's still like okay, so while you're talking about that, I know you said some main points like where anger is stored. So can you just kind of briefly go over some of the biggest emotions that could be trapped and where they might be just so if people are like, "Oh my god, I do have this pain a lot, maybe it's associated with that."
Yeah, so I actually teach this class every Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
Okay.
I live in California time, and it's absolutely free because I actually started a nonprofit because I believe that wellness belongs to everyone, regardless of income
Mm,
level. And I'm sure that's why you have a podcast because my private sessions are a bit expensive, but I want to educate people even if they have no money.
exactly.
So I raise money through the nonprofit and then have this class that's free for everybody. So we will talk about the five elements and the emotions and how to actually do the exercises to move them.
Okay.
And these exercises are called qi gong. Qi means energy and gong means work. So if you brush your teeth every day and you floss, you don't actually need to go to the dentist if you do a really, really good job. So the idea is if I teach you how to do these qigong, you can think about them like yoga, okay? If you do
Mhm.
this regularly, then you don't need to see an acupuncturist, right? Like people are like, why are you doing this? Like you're not going to get any money from teaching people how to qigong, but it's like what I want to do. I don't actually want people to come to my office. I actually want people to, be well. And so they don't need to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what I really love to do. All right. So a little glimpse of the five elements. So wood, the element of wood. Okay. So think about trees.
Mhm.
Trees, they just like to grow however they want to grow. If they want to grow out of a rock, they're going to freaking grow out of a rock. Okay. So wood likes to be free. So when the wood element is healthy, it likes freedom, liberation. But when the wood element is unhealthy, then we hold grudges, we hold
Mm.
anger, resentment, bitterness. And it could manifest as very judgmental, negative, critical. Okay, so, and then if there's a chicken and egg thing, which is, okay, was I angry first or I had this, wood element pathology first?
Mm.
And actually, I think a lot of this is we inherit from our culture. We inherit from our mom and dad, right? So if
Right.
my mom has never done therapy and she has a lot of anger stored up, then even when I was in the womb, I was already
Yep.
affecting negatively my wood element.
Mm.
Yeah, so that is interesting. And this wood element, it says that when we experience anger, it causes chi to rise.
Mm.
So, have you ever seen somebody so angry that their eyes get red?
I have seen well, I mean, I haven't seen my eyeballs, but they felt red.
Exactly. And when people get really angry, they can have stroke, high blood pressure.
Mhm.
So all of this and migraine headaches. So very classic. And also the liver pathway circles the genitals. So that's why if we don't forgive, we can also have really tight hips.
Okay. Jeez. So so much to learn. Also, I wanna say while we're talking about all of this, because I'm such an advocate for, like well, and so are you, obviously, because you call yourself the compassion queen, because everything that we are learning today, and if you find out, like, that you've been holding on to anger or fear or anything, this is information for you. This is not to judge you. Winnie, I know, has said it, she held on to a lot of different things for a really long time. So this stuff is information for us. Anger is information that you are feeling. It is saying something to you. So have compassion if, if you're finding out like, oh, I have a lot of tightness in my hips or whatever. It's okay. We're doing this to become aware so then we can change it and work on it. Just that
Yeah.
disclaimer.
Yes, yes. And I really want to emphasize also, again, the perfection of denial,
Yeah.
which is like just because we want to process some trauma. Of course, we all want to wake up tomorrow and feel completely liberated. But that isn't the point, you know? I think that as a society, and I know I'm at fault for this, is we care so much about the outcome
Mhm.
and we don't actually enjoy and appreciate the process. So it's almost like, I want to get this done. I remember, I'm going to tell everybody a joke. So when I got divorced, because I was already a healer and I know the impact of holding grudges. I'm going to say it's going to mess up my liver, it's going to mess up my hips. So I'm like, okay, Winnie, you're going to try to forgive your ex-husband as quickly as possible because I don't want it to be stored in my body. And actually, it led to something called spiritual bypassing, which is, I have this habit of chanting mantras or
Yes.
doing forgiveness practice. So every day I'm like, forgiveness, 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 forgiveness. And I even pretended that I have forgiven. Oh, but the body keeps the score. Yes, it's so funny because I would almost have this like superiority thinking, oh, I'm better than my ex-husband because I practice forgiveness and he doesn't, and I chant mantra and he doesn't. Like, I had this arrogance about me that thinks that I'm better than other people because I practice forgiveness. And then it's really funny, and this is why we need the spiritual channel.
Mhm.
Because months after the divorce, I'm like, oh, okay, I've already forgiven him. I've been there, done that, done the therapy, checked the boxes. Then one day I was hiking in Big Bear, and there was one of these beautiful waterfalls. And I was just standing in the waterfall and letting all the water just hit me. By the way, if you don't want to do that because the water is too cold, you can also do it in your shower.
Yep.
And I discovered that I secretly wanted him to regret the decision of the divorce. So, I mean, yes, it's so very human of me, right? I mean, if you feel like you got abandoned or you got dumped, you want the other person to regret what they did to you. So, while that is very human of me, when I have that thought, it's bad for me and it's bad for him because that is actually like a curse where I don't want him to be happy. I want him to suffer so he can see what a good girlfriend or wife I am. Like I want him to regret his choices. Okay. So it's really important to have the spiritual channels, or if you don't have them open, either A, you can learn how to open them, or B, you can work with somebody who can give you these readings. And I happen to have those channel open, and that's why I got this download. It's like, Winnie, it's time you look at your own,
Mhm.
SHIT. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yes, I'm so full of that. So, so yeah, so, that is how I realize I think I have forgiven, but actually I haven't. And that's not to say that the forgiveness practice that I have done wasn't important and valid.
Mhm.
Is that healing has layers. right? So I was
Yes.
able to heal the superficial layer,
Oh,
and a lot of them are actually really deep, stored in the bones.
great.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I say you can sit with a talk therapist and talk for hours, but man, you gotta go on Yelp and find yourself like an acupuncturist ASAP, because you gotta move that out of your body, because it's very hard to graduate from your trauma if you only do talk therapy and if you don't get spiritual clarity
Mm-hmm.
to look at all the things that you have been hiding or running away from. And then also B is getting help to leave that stagnation from your body.
Yes. Okay, so can I ask you what you mean by spiritual channels? Do you mean your chakras? Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, so it's really our intuition.
Okay.
And I have good news for everyone, which is everyone has it.
Yep.
It's just whether you are aware or not. So
Mm,
imagine you do have all the intuition you ever need to help you navigate life.
yes.
And the only difference between maybe you and somebody who is a professional
Mm-hmm.
is how open your heart is. And I'm going to explain this, okay? So let's say you want to manifest more money,
Yep.
and somebody who's spiritually open wants to manifest more money. You guys say the same words for affirmation, but somebody whose heart is open get it instantly. So what's the difference? So I would like you to pull out your cell phone and look at how many bars of reception there is. So basically, it's like this. If you send out a text message and I send out a text message, you have 1 bar and I have 5 bars, then my message can be sent to the universe much clearer and much faster. And I can hear the response from the universe much faster than if you have only 1 bar of reception. So everyone has intuition. It's just whether your server or your connectivity is working or not.
How do we open it up more?
Yes. So, okay. So definitely, follow me on social media and also take my Wednesday class, because we do a lot of this breath work and
Okay.
meditation to cultivate the spiritual channels.
Okay.
And quite simply, it's soul, heart, mind, energy, body. So at the same time, let's say you believe in Jesus, okay? Then
Mm-hmm.
you say, "Oh, dear Jesus, please come into my heart. Please let my heart be your heart. Please let me love like you love. And please let me forgive like you forgive." And so a part of opening the spiritual channel is calling in somebody that is so willing to serve us if we just call on them.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's talk therapy also. Yes, talk therapy, because why are the heart walls there to begin with, right? For example, we got to open up our childhood trauma, any abandonment wound, in fact, if you have nasal allergy, I'm going to tell you right now, there is some grief stored in your lungs. So, you
Huh.
know, we got to open ourselves so that we can receive the joy and the love, the support, the protection that is already available. So the only reason somebody who cannot hear it is because they got heart walls.
Yep. Ha- I forgot his name. I've interviewed him. Have you read the Emotion Code book?
Yes, yes.
I just interviewed him a couple weeks ago. Like, he blew me away. Like, holy crap. But he talks about the heart walls a lot.
So in the emotions code, that book, there's actually like an Excel chart, and
Yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
jealousy is stored in the genitals. So just circle back
Okay.
to what we said earlier. Yeah. And
Okay.
that chart is basically based on traditional Chinese medicine organs. So the emotion associated with that organ is TCM, so traditional Chinese medicine.
Okay. Yes, that's what I thought. Do you remember his name? I don't right now, and it's bothering me. I don't remember his name, but it was incredible. I interviewed him for not my podcast. I'm trying to get him on my podcast, but it was for a self-care summit that I'm hired to do that's coming out in May, and I'm like, the interview was just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And you're saying so much of this stuff, which there's some stuff that I knew, but then, diving deeper and learning more and becoming more aware of it, all that stuff. Um, Something I really do. Well, first of all, I wanted to kind of touch on about the forgiving of your ex-husband and so on and so forth, because you literally are kind of talking about where I'm at in my life right now of feeling betrayed by my ex-boyfriend. And I even said it today to a friend. I said, I know compassion will come eventually. I said, but right now I'm not in that phase. I'm still very much in the anger phase. Angry at myself for some things, angry at him for a lot of things. And I just can't lie to myself that I'm not angry, because that's just going to delay this whole healing process. And I am allowing myself, like, Melissa, you can be angry because some boundaries were crossed, and you just have to feel that. So it's just funny that you said about the forgiveness, because I'm like, I can't trick myself yet to say I've forgiven him, because too soon, too soon. I have not.
Yeah. So I part of writing this book, Unlocking Light, is telling everyone there isn't one recipe for healing.
Mm-mm.
Everyone's journey is going to look a little different.
Yep.
For some people, it is really important to validate all the anger and sit with all the anger and have that compassion. Yeah. I mean, if you put 10 women in my shoes, 10 women will be pissed, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I recently had a client, her boyfriend cheated on her while she was getting knee surgery.
Oh
And then
no.
when she came out of knee surgery, she needed somebody to take care of her, and then he dumped her.
Oh, talk about some anger.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I'm like, you women, you have every right to be angry.
Yeah.
But that being said, at some point, we do want to let go of the anger, because what's bad for you is bad for him. And so basically, there's a question here, right?
Mm-hmm.
One question is, do I want to be right? Or do I want to be kind or love? Or so it's like, do I want to be in duality,
Mm-hmm.
or do I want to be in oneness?
Mm.
Because as a society, we are more and more divided, right? Democrats and Republicans, and,
Yeah.
all this like Russia, Ukraine. We
Mm-hmm.
are very, very divided because we are in duality a lot. We want to be right. So basically, if you choose that being right is important to me, then yes, he crossed the boundaries and you have a right to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
And if you choose oneness, which is this is good for him and good for me, the universe loves me so much that when this boyfriend is gone, the universe is just going to send me something better. Okay. It's like after iPhone 12, there's iPhone 13. After iPhone 13, there's going to be iPhone 14. Okay. So why are we stuck on the fact that whatever the battery life isn't whatever and the software is whatever, like why not just look forward to iPhone 14? Why are we still stuck on iPhone 12, right? So, so if you want to be right, then you're stuck getting angry at people for doing bad things to you.
Right.
Or if you believe fundamentally that the universe has got your back, the universe always provide, then you're like, huh, after this one, there's gonna be a better iPhone on the market.
And I do believe that. I really do, because I'm telling you, the universe showed me something that I could not deny, that I know I am not supposed to be with this person. Like, so I'm grateful, but I also can't deny that there's still some, anger there. Um, but and you're right. I can't wait for the day that I just like wake up and I'm like, okay, I've let it go. I feel good. This is no longer taking up any more of my energy, literally. Um, so yeah.
So something very interesting is notice the time of day that you're the most angry. So,
Mm.
because everything is yin and yang. So,
Yep.
very simply, yang is the sun and yin is the moon, and yang is bright and yin is dark. So, for example, when it is the winter, when it's rainy, cold, new moon, I am having my period, and it's nighttime, then I get more angry. So
Yeah.
actually, our body is so connected to the universe.
Yep.
So, the question is, okay, so should I feel angry or should I like look forward to the new boyfriend? Well, you might find yourself cycling depending on the temperature, whether it's the sun or the rain, new moon, full moon, your menstrual cycle, winter, summer. And part of it is allowing yourself. Okay, you know what? If I'm in my angry phase right now, that's perfect. Look outside, it's rainy. I'm having my period and it's new moon and it's
Mhm.
nighttime, right?
Mhm.
Just knowing it's not personal, right? Just because I'm angry does not mean I'm an angry person. No, it just
Right.
means that I am breathing, I am one with the universe.
Mm.
Yeah, so that is why I really love my first book, Honoring Darkness, which is ultimately our spiritual journey is to go towards the light, right? We want
Yep.
to transform the dark to the light. We want to go from being angry at our ex to enjoying the new relationship. That's what we want.
Yes.
However, it's not a straight line and it's not Amazon 2-day delivery. It's not press a button and go to the other side.
No.
It's the cycle. Sometimes we are up and sometimes we're down, and we don't know if we'll ever get to the other side. But what I sure know is if we keep doing the breath work, we keep transforming. So we're not stagnant. So that's really all
Yes.
we can do is keep breathing.
Yeah. Also, by the way, on your whatever I watched today, the YouTube one about the shadow work, I did the stuff with you, and then I did it in the mirror today some more. I'm like, I'm just gonna all day long.
Okay, so the syllable ah opens the heart, right? Like alleluia, ah,
Okay.
mama, like every culture has like they call their mom ma, right?
Yeah.
So ah opens the heart. And so if you ever have anxiety palpitation and you just want to open your heart or you want to connect to your intuition, you can just chant ah.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm gonna do that a lot. I want to get into a little bit talking more about shadow work. I know you've talked that shadow work is kind of like is with talk therapy, but some people might not understand what shadow work is. So first of all, can you explain what is shadow work? What are some of the benefits of it? So on and so forth.
Yes. So shadow work is our willingness to face our shadows. And it's kind of like this. So yin and yang stays balanced. I have some clients, they have depression. Every day the alarm rings, they wake up, they go to work, they come back, they sit on the couch, and then they eat takeout, and then they go to sleep. So they're because if they don't do the shadow work, then they also are not really shining brightly, right? So
Mhm.
basically, when we do the shadow work, the benefit is that we get to unlock the light
Yep.
because so here's something for you. Is a knife good or bad? Well, a
Mm.
knife can be used to kill somebody, but a knife can also be used to chop wood and build houses. A knife can be used to chop vegetables and feed your family. So if you own your knife, it doesn't mean you're going to go kill somebody. It means you have the option of self defense. And most of the time, you can chop wood, build houses, chop vegetables, and feed your family. But if you don't know your knife, you're going to walk around feeling, I'm not safe, right? Because be like, oh my God, that person has so much anger. I can't deal with them. Or that person has so much fear. I can't deal with them. It's like good vibes only. I just want to stay home all the time because I can't sit with somebody's anxiety. I can't sit with somebody's anger.
Mhm.
So the benefit of doing shadow work is because I know and own my anger and my fear and my shame and my unworthiness, my grief, my inner drama queen, okay, my scarcity victim mindset, okay, me taking everybody for granted and me being manipulative because I really own all that is me. When I see that in other people, I don't have to point a finger at them and be like, you're so manipulative. No, I don't. I just be like, oh, how very human of you because I have faced that part of me. I can actually stay grounded.
Yep. I I feel like I've done a lot of shadow work without like I do journal, but I really journal when like I'm going through really really painful times. But it's something that I'm extremely self-aware and I really try to address anything that I'm feeling now. I'm trying to come to terms with like things like you said, holding shame, holding anger, holding grief. Like these are all things that if we shine the light on them and become aware of them, that they really no longer hold power of over us. And like she said, you can spot it faster in other humans to be like, I absolutely see why this person is angry because that is a human emotion to have. So, and like you also said with compassion transformation, it allows you to have compassion for yourself and not shame that you were angry at your parents or shame that you didn't graduate college. Whatever it is, it allows you to take back your power. So shadow work, I just think it's awesome. I feel like I've done it, a lot of it without like saying it's shadow work or doing all the journaling. Um can ask you what we've mentioned some, but you said that there are like different, how did you say it? I have that there are 10 shadows
Yes.
and we've mentioned some of them. So
Yes.
can you say what they are? If you don't know
Yeah.
all 10 of them, that's okay.
Yeah. So I want to say a little bit about the structure of the book because
Mm,
the book is actually organized in these 10 sub chapters because I'm actually a professor. So
yeah.
I'm really nerdy and I really think about structuring this as a course with exercise, at the end of every
Yeah.
chapter.
Okay.
And at the end of every chapter, there is a letter that you write to yourself. So you just write a letter to yourself, and it's really a love letter. And rather than focusing on the shadow, the emphasis is actually on the light, or the yin
Mm,
yang pair we
yeah.
call. So, for example, the first is to transform grief into love, right? Because grief is actually love with nowhere to go, right?
Yes.
So, for example, if somebody died suddenly, or you had a divorce suddenly, and then you used to loving this person, but now that love has nowhere to go. So, the goal is not to get stuck on the grief, it's just to be aware of the grief. And then you are like, okay, well, I have so much love to give, who do I give that to, right? So then you redirect that love into something else, right? Because in the there's a law that says energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Yep.
So the goal is not to be overly academic about what these shadows are,
Mm,
but the goal is to be aware of it.
yep.
And then how can I transform this energy into something else? So the second shadow is anger. And the goal is to transform anger into forgiveness, right? So we don't go sit down and analyze, like, because if we go down the rabbit hole of why I'm really angry, I'm just going to make myself more angry.
Yeah. Yes.
So, the point isn't to linger in the anger. The point is to be aware of the anger and then transform it into forgiveness.
Okay.
So, actually, one of the exercises that I talk about, this is in my face where I wanted to do forgiveness very quickly. So when I first had the divorce, actually, this happened like 7 days after the divorce. I sat down and wrote down everything that I was angry at my ex. Okay, he is selfish, he is manipulative, he doesn't appreciate me, or etc., etc. He always cares about himself, and
Mm-hmm.
he's very judgmental, he's critical, he's negative, whatever. I make a long list, and then I crossed out all the he and put I.
Oh shit. Is this the whole like what we think is like just a mirror of ourselves?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
I fucking knew you were gonna say that.
Let me say that was a fun exercise.
Fun? Is that
Yeah.
sarcasm?
Well, this work might be like, involve a couple cuss words, and that's totally normal. And, but the advantage is after you do that work, you get genuine joy back to your body, right? Like you're
Right.
no longer held hostage by all this conversation, because you know what, you think he's selfish, guess what, I'm selfish, right? I
Yeah.
think he's judgmental, guess what, I'm judgmental. So I think he's manipulative, guess what, I'm manipulative. When I really own all of this, I no longer see myself as the powerless victim, but that I am a human being and he's a human being. And so it's with compassion that we can finally liberate ourselves and to become the most bright side that we can be, right?
Yes. So true. Okay. And that's in your first book. These exercises are in your first book,
Yes.
Unlocking Darkness, right?
Honoring
Or
darkness.
Honoring Darkness. Oh,
Yes.
the second book is Unlocking Your Light or Light.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're actually one after the other. So it's like the first book and then there's a sequel, right? Because it's, remember how I said at nighttime I'm more likely to be angry,
Mhm.
and in daytime I'm more likely to practice love, forgiveness, compassion.
Right.
So it's really, you need both books, because the first book is you are looking at your shadow. And then the second book, you're unlocking your light. You're really
I love
discovering
it.
what's right with you. You know, a lot of the times when I have had clients who've done 20 years of talk therapy, they still have anxiety because actually talk therapy can look like people just analyze what's wrong with you, what's wrong
Yep.
with you, what's
Yep.
wrong with your husband, what's wrong with your father, what's wrong with your mother.
Mhm.
And we don't spend time looking at what's perfect about you, what's perfect about the situation, and what can you make out of it? You know, like how can we turn the lemon into lemonade?
Yeah.
So yeah, so the first book is out. The second book is probably going to be out May or June this year. So stay tuned.
Yes.
Yeah, you definitely want to get two books. So Journey into the Dark and then Unlock Your Light.
I love that. That's, like, perfect for the yin and yang.
Exactly. That
Exactly. Exactly. One other thing I saw on your video, you had put, and I know that this is like a shadow work, like, prompt or whatever. It says, "Do you know your source power?" And I guess that my question is what is our source power? Like, is that unique to each of us, or is it does that mean our authenticity? What does that mean?
Okay. That's a really great question. So, what I really mean to say is for you to have full source power, you need to know how to use all the knives. And
Mm,
that includes the light and the dark.
okay.
So, for example, fire can burn you to death, but without fire, you will be very cold, right? You can't cook your food. Water can drown you, but water is also necessary to nourish your body, nourish the plants, and grow food.
Okay.
So basically, everything has a use.
Yep.
There is a purpose for anger, there is a purpose for fear, there's a purpose for shame. These things aren't bad, right? There's nothing that is bad in this world, right? You can't say fire is better than water. No, fire's just fire, water's just water, right?
Yep.
There is a time to use fire and there's a time to use water. And so our emotions is not bad. They are here
Mm-mm.
actually to give us sacred messages.
Yep.
So, you know, the actually, to be honest, this is related to having our intuition. So, for example, many years I did not experience anger because I was told to be a people pleasing nice girl. And I always had this people pleasing nice girl mask on. And so I actually had like over 10 me too in my life. It's just like I had no boundaries and I don't know how to get angry. I don't know how to protect myself.
Mm.
So anger is useful for setting boundaries. Anger is useful for protection.
Yep.
So, because my mother had put a wet blanket over my anger, I don't know what anger is. Like people would take advantage of me and I don't even know that's bad. Like because it's been desensitized out of me. Like I only theoretically know it's bad, but I don't get angry after I've been taken advantage of,
Right.
right? So actually part of this is allowing yourself to have anger is actually a good thing.
Yep. Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, if people were going to start doing some shadow work, maybe they don't want to go to a therapist. Where is a good place to start? Is there a maybe a journal prompt they could do, or what would you say so we could start shining the light on our shadows?
Okay, so I always say that shadow work is not safe to do alone.
Mm,
Because imagine you're walking through a really dark tunnel. And then if you're walking alone, then you're stuck.
Yep.
You want to walk through the dark tunnel with somebody carrying the light for you.
Okay.
So there are three types of light bearer that allows a person to do shadow work. One is a private one-on-one situation. So this could be a life coach, this could be a talk therapist, right?
Mhm.
Number two is a group coaching program, and I have been offering that. The next time is probably July, so you can email me to get on the list for the next group class.
Mhm.
And then the third way is where you have a guide. Like for example, you can call in, Jesus, if you have that ability where you have somebody holding the light while you journey into the dark.
Okay.
So I do not recommend someone to journey into the dark without either a physical human holding their hand, a group practice, or a spiritual light that's holding you safe.
Now that you say that, I was doing a meditation. Jay Shetty was doing him on his like Instagram lives one time, and it was, you're gonna go back to this age and you're gonna go do something. And I was fine there, but then he was like, okay, now your older self is gonna go it's going to go say something to your younger self or vice versa. I don't know which one. And I like lost it, like started bawling my eyes out because a lot of my trauma happened in my 20s because I lost my mom. She was my best friend. And I was so not ready for like what younger Melissa was going to say to older, like broken Melissa. And that kind of felt like a reflective, like shadow work kind of exercise. And yeah, it was very, very triggering for me. I like broke down. So that makes some sense why you wouldn't want to
Y-
necessarily do it alone.
yes, yes, and also don't do it like when you're too tired or when you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
Hmm.
This work can be destabilizing for the nervous system.
Yeah.
So it's it's kind of like this: if you don't go digging, you can't shine really brightly. But in this process, have somebody who's going to catch you when you fall, right? Somebody who's going to hold your hand, cuddle you, pat you in the hair, tell you're doing great, keep going.
Yep.
So yeah, we definitely need a guide. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Well, before we end, I have one other question, but before we get to that question, is there anything else that you would like to share with my listeners that we have left out? I know we've covered a lot, but have we missed any important messages that you would like to share with my listeners?
Yes, all of us are born perfect. And if you don't feel perfect, it's just you don't feel perfect yet. There is a way for you to unlock some of the things that are holding you back. Some of these blockages could be in your body, in your energy, in your mind, in your heart, like walls. My heartfelt wish is that you will allow yourself to receive professional help to get better. What I find is there is a block, there's a way through every block.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that, oh my God, healing is so like triggering, or like it's so heavy to relive my trauma. But what if healing is like playing around a video game? Okay, so what? You die in this round, try another round, right? So the way I look at this is, okay, this is actually traditional Chinese medicine. Okay, let me bring that back.
Yeah.
carb soothes. So while doing shadow work or while doing something as hard, know what your comfort food is and eat it.
See?
Okay, if it's chocolate chip cookie, eat it. Okay, so G and I, when we wrote our first book, we used to joke that when you do shadow work, chocolate chip cookies turn into broccoli because you know we do want to reward and stabilize ourselves using food if we are going in a productive direction. Does that make sense? There's a
Yeah,
difference between, okay, I am bored, I'm in pain, I don't know what to do, let me just eat a bag of chips. Okay,
right.
so that is using food as a distraction.
Yep.
But, if you're like, oh my God, I just cried my eyeballs out, I need to go make money or I need to go into the real world and I want to stabilize myself. I'm going to have some chicken noodle soup. That's really, really good. So, what I want to encourage everybody is give yourself permission to be nourished by food when you are doing the difficult work. When you're doing healing, allow yourself to eat really nutritious food like bone broth is really good. Eat
Yep.
something very grounding like sweet potatoes, carrots.
Yeah. Pho. Pho is my favorite food in life. I eat it way too much.
Okay, pho is good.
Oh,
In traditional Chinese medicine, we say carb soothes. So
love that.
we add sweet to a lot of herbal formulas when we want to provide some soothing to the system.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
now everybody will go do shadow work because they get to eat their favorite comfort food. See, there's some good in all of well, there's good anyways, but this is like really good news. All right. Where can people find out more about you and the work that you do if they want to work with you?
Sure. My website is mindfulhealingheart.com. If you look under courses, I have that 5 element class that's free every Wednesday.
Okay.
And then if you look under book, you can find a link to buying my first book and also subscribe to the mailing list for the second book. And there's just a lot of free resources that I have a YouTube channel. So yeah, subscribe. And I started a nonprofit just so that I can fund a lot of this free stuff for you. So do check it out and do donate if you can. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. And I ask all of my guests this question at the end of the episode. Winnie, in your own words, what does the bright side of life mean to you?
The bright side of life is this sweetness in your heart. It's like you can't stop but smile, but not from your lips and not from your eyes, but in from the depth of your heart.
Mm,
This vibration that make you feel like everything is aligned. Every cell in your body and every layer of your existence is just totally aligned with what you came here to do. And then literally you feel like you're shining like a light bulb.
yes. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing everything. I absolutely love this episode. So thank you again for taking the time to be here with me today.
Thank you, Melissa. And thank you, everyone, for listening.